Do you remember the first movie you saw in a movie theater? For me, it was 1989's All Dogs Go to Heaven. I can vividly remember this colorful yet bleak movie about redemption and the afterlife, the last gasp of dark Don Bluth cartoons before the Disney Renaissance. I was only 4 when I saw this movie, and I remember the experience, how wonderful it felt to see that giant projection for the first time. But I also vaguely remember there being a Saturday morning cartoon tie-in show for All Dogs Go to Heaven. When I'd later bring this up to my tween peers, they thought I was referring to the 1990s show. I wasn't, and nobody believed me when I said this other version existed. Nobody recalled this cartoon, and I had no proof. By the time I was a teenager, the internet had blossomed to the point that I could look up any cartoon from any era. So I searched through the Saturday morning cartoons of 1989, hoping to find the lost All Dogs Go to Heaven cartoon that I remembered. I ended up finding the cartoon that I was thinking of, and that cartoon was Rude Dog and the Dweebs.
Slam your eyeballs against this. I was sneaking and peeping and scoping the scene, copping a major toot. When I cut loose this bunch of dweebs, whoa, I've been trying to teach them some rude.
Why did I ever think this cartoon was related to All Dogs Go to Heaven? It doesn't have the same characters, storylines, tone, or art style. Did I manufacture this memory? Did I want this cartoon so badly to relate to the movie that I willed it into my mind? When I discovered the truth of this manufactured memory, it scared me, because if I was wrong about that, what else could I have misremembered? This terror of misremembering and the contortion of the past can be found in the 2026 film Backrooms. The film is based on the online phenomenon of liminal spaces, with liminal being based on the Latin word for threshold. These empty interiors represented a transition. These are places once intended for or occupied by people and are now completely devoid of occupants. This includes office spaces where businesses were once operated, and shopping malls that have lost their retail organs that once pumped customers through their veins. The emptiness transfixed an online audience, evoking nostalgia for where they once stood. And for another generation, it was to stare into the husk of the 20th century, like archaeologists. It was a concept appealing enough to warrant a movie that thankfully did more than just toss some familiar scenes onto the big screen. Meet Clark. He's an alcoholic who is losing his wife and his house. His dream of becoming an architect failed to materialize, forcing him to settle for a managerial role at a furniture store, a spacious, brightly lit, and mundane store that fails to attract customers in its vast interior. While trying to figure out the strangeness of his off-looking breaker box in the basement, he discovers a portal. The portal takes him to a dimension of endless, impractical interiors. Clark becomes obsessed with these backrooms for what they represent. They seem otherworldly, but represent something familiar. There's a mundanity to the materials of carpet and wallpaper, but the designs do not make sense. To Clark, it does not need to make sense. It is a distortion of space that can be manipulated, just like his mind. In the realm of the backrooms, Clark doesn't view himself as a man with problems of alcohol abuse and regret. He doesn't need to change in a realm that doesn't progress beyond echoing memories that don't seem accurate. As Clark describes the backrooms, it is all that ever was and all that ever will be. Eternal, never-ending nostalgia for something that never existed, yet was desired. Now, meet Mary, Clark's therapist. Like Clark, she is losing her home. In this case, her childhood home, where she once lived with her mentally unwell mother. With her house demolished for new development, she retains a piece of concrete from her residence with her handprint on it. A meaningful, tangible connection to remind her that her home existed in the past. It is fitting that this piece of her history becomes a weapon against Clark's rattled manifestations manifestations of madness within the Backrooms. Before she even enters the Backrooms, Mary focuses on her memories. She attempts to maintain the good and the bad recollections of childhood, rather than bury them. If she only remembers the good or misremembers the bad moments as fond memories, she can distort her sense of who she is. The past stops becoming a part of what defines us. It instead becomes a retreat to comfort that gets the details wrong. The details, however big or small, can be misremembered or forgotten. And that loss of memory can be terrifying. I have fond memories of the past that can be traced, but not with precise accuracy. For example, I grew up playing arcade games at Aladdin's Castle, an arcade chain within my local mall. I know exactly where this arcade was located, and there is evidence to prove this. My favorite arcade game at Aladdin's Castle was X-Men, a popular beat-em-up game that has been preserved. I played this game a lot as a child, but there were actually two versions of this game. A single-screen version accommodating 4 players and a dual-screen version accommodating 6 players. And for the life of me, I can't recall which version I played at Aladdin's Castle. I remember the button console being very big, so maybe it was the dual-screen version, but I was also young and small. This might sound like a minor detail to get hung up on, but it does raise doubts. And if I'm wrong about that arcade cabinet I played, what else could I be wrong about? Did I even play X-Men at this arcade? Or maybe I'm just mashing together memories of the X-Men cartoon and the Simpsons beat-em-up game, which I also played at Aladdin's Castle. I think. And I worry about this because of what I may be conveying inaccurately to those younger than I am. I have a substantial audience on YouTube. Many in my audience are under 40 and will not share the same recollections of my era as I do. They will instead rely on other accounts to understand that history. And that history can easily be distorted in this online space. And sometimes the distortion can sound far more appealing than the truth. Consider Vaporwave, a music genre that is built on a distortion of the past. The most iconic song of this movement was Macintosh Plus's Lisa Frank 420, which is an altered version of Diana Ross's It's Your Move. Saint Pepsi's Enjoy Yourself is not only an altered version of Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, but also uses McDonald's Mac Tonight commercials in the music video. And those commercials were themselves a revision of Bobby Darin's Mac the Knife. Layers upon layers of evoking and altering nostalgia, creating something new by manipulating elements of the past. Part of the appeal of Vaporwave, at least for me, is that it offers an idealized version of the past that didn't exist, at least the way one would want it to. Consider this retro image used for the Vaporwave playlist Employee of the Month. The photograph is from the 1985 book, The International Collection of Interior Design. The book does not list the building's exact location, only suggesting that it is in Florida. Some online have suspected that this might be the Next Era Energy Resources building in Juneau, Florida, but this has not been confirmed. And while some desire to know the archaeology of this photo, others choose to get lost in their own fantasy inspired by it. There are comments that try to set the tone and paint a vivid picture of what office life might have been in that interior. The feel of the carpet, the distant chatter of your coworkers, the smell of hairspray, and the satisfying clacking of old keyboards. This sounds absurd, doesn't it? This salivation over a mundane morning at a 1980s office. But don't you wish you were there and not wherever you are now? Just listen to the music and let it take you away. This obsession with the past bled into video games as well. Retro Rewind is a 2026 video store simulator that I found myself playing a lot lately. The game is set in the 1990s, with the player assuming the role of the store manager in first person. The game allows you to manage the store's design, inventory, employees, and how you interact with customers. As someone who previously worked in a video store, I enjoy this game. The atmosphere is nice, the VHS titles are amusing, and I like how I can customize the television monitors to play whatever I want. But while I was playing this game, I couldn't help but think of Backrooms again. This replication of the past looks familiar, but always off in more than a few ways. The video titles all have familiar names that have been altered. The video store can be changed to such a degree that it can adopt numerous styles from wall to wall and shelf to shelf. The people also don't look like people. Their eyes are too big and their voices are more noise than words. To be clear, I understand the creative, technical, and legal choices for all of this. A video game like this is not going to pay for the rights to feature Rambo, Alien, and The Lion King on the videotape titles. But that still doesn't negate the strange feelings I had about a video game setting that was familiar yet foreign. This felt like working at a video store again, but with some conveniences that made it less stressful. For example, when you accept cash for purchases, the till has an unlimited supply of monetary change. Players won't have to worry about running to the back, opening the safe, and retrieving the change that they need, or counting the till at the end of a shift, or even running to the bank when the change runs out. They won't have to worry about running out of new releases or waiting for more, since the shipments arrive instantly in this game. This isn't quite how I remember the video store, but I didn't work at one in the 1990s either. I worked at a Hollywood Video from 2003 to 2004 and again in 2007. Are my experiences from a different decade further contorting the astuteness of this game? I needed something while playing to tether this experience more to reality. Thankfully, the game allows players to customize what plays on the TVs, so I added in footage from a Blockbuster Video promo tape from the early 1990s. This felt more real. The dated graphics, the promotions, and the tape's audio all bled into the store's background noise. I wish I could find one of the Hollywood Video trailer tapes to make this more familiar, but this will do. I continued playing and I had a good time with the game. But a terrifying thought still lurked in the back of my mind. The Blockbuster Video promo, echoing in the background, also echoed a fearful realization. Everything about this game, the store, the tapes, the customers, and the atmosphere, all of that will inevitably vanish. No more new releases. No more rows of VHS tapes to walk through. No more customers asking about movies. No more anything. Nothing. Silence. A space devoid of life, existing without us. The scariest thought of liminal spaces is not just the emptiness, but the reminder of death. The idea that we won't exist and that all we'll leave behind are the vague fossils of what defined us. And we will leave behind the remnants of a dream that didn't exist, or worse, a nightmare. But nostalgia doesn't have to be so dark. In the same year that I watched Backrooms, I also watched a less terrifying movie about the 1990s. Blue Heron is a film about Sasha, a woman who recalls her suburban childhood. Her teenage brother Jeremy had a troubled life that she saw very little of. The film perfectly captures the details of 1990s suburban life. The distant lawnmower, the cartoons on the TV, and the quiet moments of playing with MS Paint for the first time. Sasha watches from a distance as Jeremy's defiant nature is kept behind closed doors, including him being taken away by social services. In the film's most remarkable twist, a grown-up Sasha steps out of time and becomes the social worker who took her brother away. She also has a quiet moment with a teenage Jeremy, giving her a chance to say the things she never felt she could say as a child. how is any of this possible? It doesn't matter. What matters most is how thoughtful and heartfelt this movie is in its treatment of this return to the past. Sasha doesn't re-enter the 1990s to go to a video store, or watch The Simpsons as it aired, or drink a bottle of Orbitz when she could still buy that nasty drink. She traverses time for something more genuine, emotional catharsis and closure. Nostalgia can be comforting as long as it's coming from someplace more personal than manufactured. I might not perfectly recall all of the details of my childhood, but I do remember the sensations, the excitement of going to the movie theater for the first time, the bumpy bus ride home from school while reading Disney Adventures magazine, the eccentric birthday parties I had at the local bowling alley, the strange smell of the carpet at the video store attached to a grocery store. And while these memories might not mean much to someone who only recognizes the 90s for the retro media and retail spaces, they're important to me. They tether me to this era beyond what I owned, wore, played, read, and watched. They're reminders that I existed at this point in time. The Backrooms movie presents a duality in the recalled past. Clark denies who he was while Mary embraces her history, warts and all. The perpetual distorted recreations of the Backrooms allows the past to be altered rather than build a future. And there's an obvious association with this idea, no matter how unintentional it was. This is generative artificial intelligence. Generative AI cannot create. It instead pulls from what already exists. And even then, what it produces is often abundant in errors and inaccuracies. There might, for example, be a generated image boasting about how wonderful it would be to live in 1994, set in a bedroom loaded with media from 1996. That would not represent 1994, but would a younger generation even care? The history won't matter so much as the retro allure. There is nostalgia, even if it's not your nostalgia. Don't you want to go back and live in that time? Wouldn't you like to share my childhood ignorance, more preoccupied with Sonic the Hedgehog than Rodney King? Don't you feel like you were born in the wrong era? Because you shouldn't. The past is the past. I can't go back there. I can collect artifacts of my youth or relive familiar sensations through simulators, but those days are dead. There is no future in choosing to remain stuck in the 1990s. I know the future looks bleak. Nobody wants to think of what lies ahead because inevitably, we will arrive at coming to terms with our own death. But there isn't much comfort in refusing to leave our childhood or hazy memories of that time that may or may not exist. And I'm willing to admit these might be the dreams I retreat to in the darkest nights, but they might also end up becoming somebody's nightmares. And that is what scares me most about a movie like Backrooms. So yeah, that movie made me very scared and very existential at the same time. Maybe I'll play a few rounds of Retro Rewind to shake off that dread. Wait a minute, how did a Whitewoods music video get on the TV? Did I put that? You know what? It's fine. It's all right.